There has been some Wellington Phoenix news as well recently. Corbin Piper has signed a scholarship deal with the Phoenix. What do you know about Corbin Piper, and why has he been signed on a scholarship deal for the Wellington Phoenix?
Yeah, I know a fair bit about Corbin Piper because he played for Birkenhead in the National League a couple of years ago. It was very good. Like it's sort of very a very sort of powerful combative central midfielder. Can play as a bit more of an attacking option, or he can play as more of a defensive option. He's well rounded like that. He then went and spent a year playing in the second tier in Ireland for a club called Wexford, where he actually played quite a lot. He was getting good minutes there, and unfortunately didn't end up going back for a second year. And it sounds like that might have also been like not just footballing reasons, but potentially a bit of financial reasons, and that you're not really getting paid very much there. So it's quite hard to be living away from home and whatnot. So um, he came back, had a stellar season for Birkenhead, has been on trial with the Wellington Phoenix for the last little bit, and they've signed him up. But curiously, they've signed him up. So, first of all, they've given him a scholarship deal. They have four players under scholarship. If you remember last week, they gave Matt Sheridan a senior deal, elevated him from a scholarship deal to a senior deal, and also elevated LB Kelly Hield from a scholarship deal to a senior deal. The Kelly Hield one I'd expected to happen for weeks because they'd already signed Dublin Boone as a scholarship goalkeeper. You weren't not going to have two scholarship goalkeepers. One of them's going to end up on the upper thing, which obviously had to be Kelly Hield. So that happened. But because it was Kelly Hield and Sheridan, you left an open spot in the scholars. So that's what Piper's swooped in and taken. And the other interesting point here is that it sounds, not just sounds, like Chiefy straight up said it in the thing. They're going to convert him from a combative center midfielder into a ball playing center back. So the one thing I'm not sure about him, I don't know how tall he is. He's a bit of a gym rat, so he's super fit. Like strength wise, that's no dramas. He will be a little bit older, a year or two older than the other scholarship player. Well, 5 or 6 years older than Luke Brooks-Smith, but 1 or 2 years older than Dublin Boone and um, Gabe Sloan Rodriguez. Well, he's also closer to Luke Brooks-Smith, so he'll be the oldest of their four scholars. Um, and yeah, well, that's a centre back has been a little bit of a hole in the formation. It's not entirely clear how they're going to fill that. Piper will obviously get a bit of a long run up, and because they're going to chuck him straight in. He's only on a scholarship deal. They're expecting him to use the next wee while to learn a new position as well as adapting to professional football. But he's a good player, and I was hoping he'd be able to kick on from the Wexford gig into something else, maybe lower leagues of England or top division in Ireland. That didn't quite happen, but A League will do. So it's nice tidy signing there. Nice bit of business to fill out their thing, and an interesting one as well. In that it's scholarship players signed from outside of their academy, which they've already done once with Luke Brooks-Smith this season, and also, to be honest, like Dublin Boone wasn't there very long before he ended up on a first team scholarship deal as well. So Boone also had a season doing some overseas stuff. So he spent a year in the academy team at Roda JC in the second tier of Dutch football. So um, yeah, a couple interesting little patterns evolving in some of that stuff. They have a very good academy at the Wellington Phoenix, but they're also definitely open to looking outside the academy and bringing in dudes. And to be honest, like it's one step. We're just looking at different steps anyway. Where these guys get on the ladder, they're recruiting guys for their academy from all around the country as well. So whether they're recruiting them to the academy to go straight in the first team or straight, whether it's recruiting them as 14 or 15-year-olds, it's still kind of a similar aspect. They got scouts all around. Did see also that they've announced a new women's visa signing. I better get the name right, but an American midfielder who has a little bit of NWSL experience. I'm not sure if she played in the NW. She must have. She was on a contract at least with North Carolina Courage. That is Maya McCutcheon. So she's an American center midfielder. Reckon she's quite a good uh, Corbin Piper type center midfielder. Someone who'll jump into a lot of tackles, strong and athletic and fit and hardworking, and effectively seems like because this isn't a position they used on an import last year for the women's team. Kate Taylor was used as their sort of ball winning, hard tackling, deeper midfielder. But I think maybe in buying quite a lot of bringing, well, they had a goalkeeper, they had a fullback, and then they had a few forwards. And Hope Breslin ended up playing quite a bit as a deeper midfielder anyway, which maybe highlighted the fact that they overcompensated on buying, like trying to get more attacking and goal scoring creativity in the team by having three imports in those positions, and maybe left a bit of a gap in the midfield that needed filling. So it's interesting they're bringing in a midfielder here, but of course they had to do something anyway because Kate Taylor has left and is going to begin her season in France next week is when that starts. The WSL starts next week. The French top division starts next week. German one started a couple of weeks ago. The Italian one started a couple of weeks ago. So all the big women's leagues are coming into action now, and there's New Zealanders in most of them. And we don't have anyone in Spain, but we got players in the rest of those ones that I've mentioned. So yeah, good business all around from the Wellington Phoenix. They're keeping busy. I think with the men, I think that'll probably be it. I think that's probably their squad. The women have a few more visas to go. Their season starts a month later than the men, so they got more time. But I think with the blokes, yeah, Corbin Piper brings them up to 23 players, including scholars. I don't think they'll sign anyone else on top of that.
And Michaela Foster, where's she going?
TBD. Unless something's been announced in the last
No, I thought
hour or something. I'll
I
check just in case.
I saw her in the news of like maybe last week, but I don't. A move obviously hasn't been finalized. We do have Gabi
Or
Rennie.
it might have been finalized, but it hasn't been announced at least. So
That's what I mean.
We'll find out.
Michaela Foster. Gabi Rennie scored a goal off a header for Ireland United. Hannah Blake banged one in from outside the box for Durham Women's FC. And we also had a goal for Alex Grieve, I believe. Offer some background for those goals.
Yeah, and Moses Dyer scored a goal. Elliot Collier scored a goal as well. That's a little bit deeper in the mix, but yeah, Gabi Rennie just having a superb first season in Finland, where I think she's up to 6 goals and 5 assists in the league. Plus, she's got a couple more goals in the cup competitions as well. So she's coming into the team that Jackie Hand got her start at, and is different players. Hand was expected to be a little bit more of the instigator, whereas Rennie is just out wide on the right and hard running and sort of getting on the end of stuff and whipping and crosses. But Rennie's having every bit as much of an impact as Jackie Hand did, which is crazy because I would have said Jackie Hand is a step above Gabi Rennie as a footballer a year ago. But Gabi Rennie's progressing super quickly since she's got out of the college stuff into leagues in Finland, and yeah, having a great season. Who else do we mention there? Hannah Blake. I did see some of the sleuthing on because whenever there's a player where's this player going, someone always jumps on the Instagrams and checks what club did they just follow in the last week. That happened with Michaela Foster and Durham. So there was a little bit of I did spot some of this conjecture. Is this potentially where Michaela Foster is going? And maybe it could be, but it also might be. I think Hannah Blake would have been in the same under-20s wave as Michaela Foster. She might just be following them because her friend plays for the team. It might just be that she wants to see how that goes. And if she is, well, she saw Hannah Blake score an absolute ripper on the weekend. It was a smashing goal, just set up slightly on the bounce on the edge of the area, and she didn't take a touch. She didn't wait for it to come down. She just ran onto it and went thump. And even the cameraman couldn't keep up with that. It flew into the top corner. You don't actually see it hit the net on the video because it went too fast and it went too quickly and too suddenly. Great goal from her. She's playing as like an attacking midfielder in this Durham team, and they've been really good. They've won both their first 2 games, and she's been starting. She's wearing the number 10 jersey, and everything just seems very well aligned for Hannah Blake to have a great season and to get back into the football ferns, frankly, because I felt last year while she's playing for Adelaide that she was good enough to at least get into a couple of those squads, particularly once some injuries required them to dig slightly deeper on occasion. The fact that Adelaide sucked really badly last season, they were quite an awful team, probably hindered her. Like that might have been the difference. If she had been doing that for a team that was making the playoffs, then she'd have got more goals and assists to show for it. She'd have had more highlights. She'd have probably got a bit more of a spotlight on her. Didn't really happen at Adelaide, but it looks like it might happen at Durham. She's had a great start there. Who else do we have? Alex Grieve. Alex Grieve has not made the last all-white squad. He has had a weird year in 2024 where there were times when he was playing in Scotland for St Mirren at a premiership level, like top division in Scotland, where he was starting games for a while there and it's certainly having a big impact. And then he sort of found himself on the bench, wasn't getting a lot of minutes, so he goes out on loan to a team trying to get promoted to that division, a division below that, and also mostly only played off the bench, had an untimely injury, which didn't help, but just didn't quite have the impact expected. So he drops down a level below that as well into the Irish League and also finds himself mostly playing off the bench and not really having the impact expected. So it's a weird one. Like, as a dude who's played at a considerably higher level than this, and he's not really getting those chances you'd expect of him, but they did have a cup game on the weekend. He comes off the bench in the cup game, scores a goal, sets up a goal. Didn't play a lot, but obviously had an impact. He'd scored in the previous round of the cup as well. Bohemians are actually into the semi-finals now of the Irish Cup, so good from them. And hopefully that's the jolt in Alex Grieve's career at the moment that he needs, because it's been concerningly trending downwards a little bit there. But when that happens, someone else steps up. Like the All Whites aren't reliant on picking guys anymore who are playing professionally, but maybe their careers are trending in the wrong direction, or just the form is trending in the wrong direction, because form is temporary after all. But they don't have to pick Alex Grieve if he's not playing well, so they haven't been. And it's up to Alex Grieve to fix things up and get into a better situation if he can. Sometimes this is just out of the player's control, and I think some of this has been with him, but it's an important thing to remember with these things is there's always someone else. There's probably always 3 or 4 or 5 other players in each position that are contending, and it is the same on the women's side now as it is on the men's side. So Daisy Cleverly apparently seems to have just announced her retirement from football at the ripe old age of 27, but also she's someone who was playing international. She debuted for the Football Ferns at 17, so she actually did have quite a long career there. And fun fact is she played 39 times for the Football Ferns. Her only 2 goals were scored on debut. So she scored 2 goals in the first game. She didn't score again in the next 38. But she didn't go to the Olympics, right? Like that's a well-known name. She was in the World Cup squad, but I don't really know if she got minutes at the World Cup. And yeah, then doesn't make the Olympic squad a year later. That's a relatively well-known name, someone who's been around for 10 years. It's also someone who the Football Ferns aren't necessarily going to miss, because in the last couple of years, Kay Taylor's turned into a midfielder, and Malia Steinmetz has locked in a starting spot, and Macy Fraser's popped up, and there's some good midfielders in that under-20s team that played recently, and there's plenty of good midfielders around other leagues where they're awaiting opportunities. It's sort of like what we're saying before about the Kiwis and eligibility, where it's like you might have a tenuous link, but if you're locked in, you're locked in. Sweet as. If you're not locked in, though, they don't need you. And it's not a matter of well, I guess it is, because Daisy Cleverly's retired. She did like post-grad at university. She had a long college career in America, so she's obviously someone who has interests well beyond football, and someone who's clearly pretty intelligent and would have several options and ambitions and other stuff she wants to achieve. So fair enough. I think she recently got engaged as well, so that might also be an aspect. But like, it's a weird feeling to look at that and think, oh, that's a bummer. Like there's a player disappeared who's been on the thing. Congratulations on a great career. She's been she's had very good moments in football fans jerseys, but also like the football fans just move on. As as they there might even be a transition into the coaching stuff. They you move on. There's someone else. When players step away, you also move on, and there's someone else when a coach steps away too.
I don't think we never really need to talk about Klimkova though. Like, I don't know what is new there. Like, the stuff that has come out over the weekend is just like, okay, yep, this happened. Yep, we already knew things were a bit iffy. Yep. At this stage, I at this stage we've recorded a monster podcast, so I don't think we need to do another 10 minutes about Klimkova. But also, like, what? Let's just move forward. As you're kind of just alluding to, let's just move forward. Whoever's the new coach, cool. We've got a good system. We've got good players. We've got more players playing professionally. Just keep moving forward. And with that in mind, the All Whites played, lost to Mexico, had a decent result against the USA. Have any of the All Whites, have they returned to club footy over the weekend?
Yeah. Pretty much all of them. Like, for anyone who had games is turning up and doing what they could. Like, Chris Wood went back and beat Liverpool. First time Nottingham Forest have beaten Liverpool at Anfield since 1969. So good result from him. He actually had a very All Whites-esque performance in that he hardly touched the ball. Did a lot of good defensive work, but a lot of it was kind of the unheralded stuff, and didn't really get any chances, didn't get a lot of service, and so I think it was a nice continuation from him. But also, like the All Whites did against USA, got a good result there, a great result in Nottingham Forest's case. They've won 2, drawn 2 to start the season, so they're one of the last remaining undefeated teams in the Premier League, which is crazy because they were in a relegation battle last season, and now here they are, well clear of relegation worries, albeit only a month into the season. A few of them, like I think Joe Bell was subbed off after 83 minutes, so that's rare for him. He didn't play a 90-minute performance. Perhaps he had a bit of tiredness in the legs. Maybe he was, hopefully that wasn't an injury or anything like that. He did do an after-match interview with one of the sort of fan group / podcast type things, old Viking pudding. But unfortunately, Joe Bell just speaks Norwegian now. So he does a lot of those interviews in Norwegian. And I can't understand Norwegian, so I don't know what he said. If he was talking about, yeah, actually, I tore my hamstring and I'm out for the next 2 months. Well, if he said that, I didn't understand it. So he might have just said, nah, it's just, it's a little bit thirsty and needed a drink, and we were doing well. So they won 1-0 there, Vikings. So they're still sitting second in the Norwegian league and looking like they won't have a title challenge because Bodø Glimt are miles ahead of everyone else, but they can hold on to second. There's some good European footy that'll be coming their way next season, so that's good from them, especially after last year where they were pushing for a similar thing and then absolutely capitulated in the last couple of months. So there's redemption on offer there. Ben Old only played off the bench for Snetien, but that was straight after an international break, and he had been injured the game before that, and they won. They beat Lille for their first win of the season, so that was nice because they actually hadn't even scored a goal, that team, in their first 4 games. So they've snuck a 1-0 win in the fifth one to get on the board. They were one of the last teams across all of the big 5 European divisions to have not scored yet. Didn't see McCutcheon on the weekend, though. Unfortunately, he was an unused sub as Empoli drew 0-0 with Juventus. A few other options out there, but those are the big dogs, I suppose.